let's say the date.
Is it running?
What's the
Today
date?
is January 12th, 1997.
Okay, and why don't you say your name?
Oh, my name's Helen Baumbach. I'm the grandmother of Sunshine here, and what else do you want to know?
Okay, well, let's start with where you were born and your birthday.
My birth date is October 25th, 1926. I was born in North Dakota, at a little town of Fredonia. I was born in Bismarck Hospital, but let's see. Then I came back. I was raised there till I was 19 years old.
And who are your brothers and sisters? And
Oh, I had 2 brothers and 1 sister. I had a brother Walter, a brother Leroy, and a sister Lillian.
and they were
She
older?
passed away in 76. What?
They were older or younger? Or?
Well, I had an older sister and an older brother, and then Leroy was the younger one next to me.
And you lived with your mom and dad and them? Or?
They divorced after 26 years, and then my mother and I came to California.
And then your siblings stayed in North Dakota?
No.
They,
Everybody just kind of took off after
Yeah.
the divorce.
uh-huh. But they all finished high school.
Oh, well, not all of them.
No.
Walter didn't.
Well, Leroy went in the Army.
Leroy finished it in the service.
Okay. So then you moved to Lodi?
Well, we came to Lodi, and we were going to go on to San Jose. My mother always said, "Oh, we're going to end up in San Jose." So we ended up staying in Lodi because I ended up getting a job here
Doing what?
in the bank.
And then your mom was working too?
Well, she went to work in the cannery.
And it was the two of you living together?
Yeah, we were living in a trailer house.
And so what year, this was like in the 40s?
For 1946.
Okay.
No, wait a minute.
45, 46. Yeah, 46.
I came out in 46.
Because I was in the service.
And you were in your early 20s?
I was 19.
19 when you moved out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you lived with your mom until you got married?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, she got married first. She got married to Gus Hoff
Mm-hmm.
and moved into a house on Tokay Street, 412 East Tokay. And so I moved into that house with them.
And then you met Grandpa?
Yeah, met Grandpa.
And so when did you meet him? You were 20?
You were working in the bank.
Well, I was working at the bank, yeah.
So where did you meet?
At a Smeckler swimming pool.
Okay.
A bunch of us girls went out there to swim, and he happened to be there.
Uh-huh. And then how did you date and stuff? Did what happened about your courtship?
You want me to talk a little bit too? Or?
Well, sure. Go ahead.
Well,
Oh,
I banked there.
you knew her from the bank.
Yeah, she was a teller.
Okay, go ahead.
And then that night when our first date, it was raining, cats and dogs outside. She wanted to cancel the date because it's raining too hard. It's not raining too hard for me. Let's go for it. Oh, she was so scared she didn't want to go out. And after that, I
So where'd you go?
She liked me more. We went to the movie and drive-in, had a hamburger and all that kind of stuff. See, all her girlfriends worked at the bank too. But friends now, they'd even Elsie.
So when did you go in the service?
1945.
You were married? You were married.
Right after the service. I came out and I was on that GI plan, you know, they give you so much money to farm or go to school, so my brother and I farmed. And then we start dating about a year or so later, wasn't it? Go ahead, Tom.
I don't understand. You were dating and then you went in the service?
No.
No.
This is from...
This was I didn't know him at all when he was in the service.
Oh, okay.
I graduated in 1945 and I went right in the Army right away.
And then when you were in the Army, you went to Germany?
Yeah, I was around here a while and they shipped overseas. I was all in 1946. I was in Berlin.
And what did you do there?
I was worked for in the Air Corps. I was worked for the supplies, air material squadron. It's fun.
Yeah?
Not much. The war was over. Wasn't much excitement.
Oh, okay.
It was nice over there.
Okay.
Nice experience.
So then you guys met after he was back.
After you.
And after you were back, what did you do for work?
Farmed. Yeah. Great farm. My brother Ollie and I were the oldest. He was out of the Marines, I was in the Army. So then we applied for this thing. We farmed 80 acres, big chunk of ground up there. Went broke eventually. I gave it all up.
So you were farming when you guys met?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, when we were.
And then I had a pretty good chunk of money in the bank, and I think she thinks that I was worth some money, so her and her mother probably figured better get a hold of that Baumbach. He's got money. After that, we all went to pot. And we were as poor as church mice.
So where did you get married?
In Lodi at Ebenezer Congregational Church.
Was it big? A big wedding?
Well, yeah, we had big wedding. There were like 200 people there.
And a reception?
It was the old church. What?
Then you had a reception too?
Yeah, at the woman's club.
Thought our women's had a big reception. A lot of people there. But there was a little church. It was packed. And then we moved around about 6 or 7. Of course, then we went on a honeymoon to Hollywood. Big shots. And Vicky was born on the honeymoon. I mean, conceived on the honeymoon.
Uh-huh.
She was born right away. 8 months.
9 months and 4 days later.
8 months and 32 days, I always say. And then was what?
So, well, why don't you talk about when you were born and where you grew up, and then we'll go on
Okay.
with the.
I was born 1927, March the 12th. See where it's running.
Yeah, I think it is.
Poke it over there.
Okay.
Out on our 20-acre ranch. All of us boys were born out there with my dad.
You were born on the ranch?
I'm pretty sure that we had those midwives and stuff in
Uh-huh.
those days.
In Lodi?
Out in the country, about 7 miles out of town.
South Pier Road.
In fact, my grandpa came to Lodi in the late 1800s, and my dad went to Houston Grammar School, and he went to the 3rd grade, and that's all they could afford. You know, he had to stay home and work. So then his dad was a real estate. My grandpa was a real estate guy, and one time in Lodi here, he owned all that section where Rivergate is. At one time was worthless. It was swamps.
Wow.
And anyway, my dad went to grammar school and out at Houston School. And
In Lodi?
all his kids went to Houston School, but
Wow.
he went pretty good.
And what did your dad do?
We farmed. We had that 20 acres, and he worked for one big farmer next to us. And, just worked for him, and we farmed too.
And your brothers and sisters? Brothers. Just brothers.
Yeah, all the brothers, they were.
Are they?
When they got out of high school, they all went in service, you know.
Where do you fall within your brothers?
Third. I'm the third oldest.
And there's how many?
There's 4 of us. Ollie went in the Marines, and Alvin went in the Merchant Marines, and I went in the Air Corps, and Paul went in the Army.
Wow.
My mother had 3 of us in the service at one time. The war was going hot and heavy. Oh, I felt sorry for her. Oh, she was writing 3 letters a day, you know. Oh, but craps. But of course, Dad was in World War I over in Germany too. Of course, when I got over there, he was interested in him, and I would write letters where I was at. 40 years later, 30 years, whatever.
And then you went
And then I came back, and we farmed, and I met Mom, I met Helen, and then
You went to high school in Lodi?
yeah, Lodi High, 4 years. Played track and football. Got a couple of sweaters. Pretty good athlete, I guess. Thought I was.
Yeah.
Well, the war years, you know, there was no there was no boys. They were all in the service. And my dad got me deferred just to graduate. But I graduate Friday night, and Monday morning I was in Camp Beale in the Army. That's how fast it went. So, you know, and when we got back, I farmed, and then my brother and I farmed, and then he got married, and he didn't want to farm, and so he moved out, and I kind of had to take care of that ranch, and then we lost our shirts that year. I don't know what happened to the grapes.
You each got a $100 check.
It was a bad year. They got sunburn and mildew. Anyway, then I was in trouble. So then I had odd and end jobs working at a service station and here and there, and then I finally got on with the Union Oil driving gas truck, and then I was in the gas business till I retired in 1990 or
Okay.
That's more or less what I've done.
Um,
And Helen worked at the Bank of America when she could, and fruit companies and stuff, just to make it. Worked all the time.
so, I'm interested in your pregnancy and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I graduated from Cullum High School in
Uh-huh.
Cullum, North Dakota. That was 8 miles from where I lived.
He wants your pregnancy, you told her.
When you were pregnant with Mom
You
and,
told her about that already.
No, I didn't mention that earlier.
Pregnancy.
well, yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
You graduated from the high school in North Dakota?
in Cullum, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now you wanna know about my pregnancies? I got pregnant right away. And, our oldest was Vicky.
Your mother.
Do you remember if it was hard, did you have a hard pregnancy?
Yeah.
Or?
But I
Oh, you
got so big with her.
You did too. That baby wouldn't come. You was laying in, it was July the 4th,
Well,
and it was 110 outside. No air conditioning in this whole hospital in Lodi. Lodi was about 7,000 people those days. And screaming, hollering, the doors were all open, and I was in the waiting room waiting, and
They didn't let the men in those days.
On the 4th? This is the
Well,
4th?
we
she was
went
born
in
on
on the
the
4th.
We went in on the 4th, but they sent us home. It was false.
Well, oh yeah, then the 6th.
So then the 6th she was
Oh,
born.
it was awful. She was first baby, gained too much weight.
Oh, I gained so much weight. It was terrible.
That's one thing you don't want to do is gain a lot of weight.
And then how long were you in the hospital when she was born?
3 days.
3 days, but it was a week.
Not in my day. Didn't do that. It was 3 days in, now it's 1 day. They're just lucky to keep overnight.
Where were you living when she was born?
Out in,
No, we were living on Tokay Street where her
Oh,
mother, we
Tokay
were
Street.
renting her place from, then she got married and moved with her
Uh-huh.
second husband, and we
Uh-huh.
rented that into where that's where Vicky and Diane were raised.
So then how old was Mom when you got pregnant with?
Diane.
Uh-huh.
She was 3 years, they're 3 years apart.
Uh-huh.
Vicky was born in 49. Diane was born in 52. And Bill then came along in 57.
Uh-huh.
But Diane was an easy pregnancy for her, that was, Bill.
She was such a sick baby though.
Yeah, always.
She had
Oh,
so
yeah, she
many
was?
allergies.
Your mother had tonsillitis, we had to get them out twice, I think.
Twice, yeah.
Sick, coughing all the time.
Uh-huh.
And Diane had such bad allergies, could hardly breathe, and Bill too.
And-
All the kids had allergies. But we found out later, every house that we rented had a walnut tree in the
Oh.
lot or near the bedroom, and that's what the whole thing was, the walnut pollen. Me too, I had to sometimes work in gas truck for Union Oil. I had to leave and go to Santa Cruz for a whole week just to breathe the clean air. It was awful,
Oh.
and we were poor. Her mother, we paid $35 a month rent, and your
She
mother
had to hold the
had to
check.
hold sometimes 4 or 5 checks. We couldn't make it. So, you know.
It was
but I-
awful in those days.
Then I realized, man, I better get me more part-time jobs and work. And then, of course, my dad died, and then Mom was left out at the ranch. And
What
he
did
was,
your dad die from?
Oh, prostrate trouble.
Uh-huh.
And I have it too, my
Mhm.
brother. And he didn't go and didn't go and didn't go till his kidneys were so rotten and everything. And then he died of what they call uranium poisoning, the kidney failure.
How old was he?
67.
57 only.
And your mom?
His mother was 77.
We
And
moved
my
her to
mother-
town, then we moved out and bought the ranch. Nothing down, and for $20,000 we bought a 20-acre ranch.
At Woodbridge?
No, out on Peltier Road, way out there.
That's where Vicky has good memories
Yeah.
about that ranch.
Yeah, horny toads and stuff.
And
Uh-huh.
then we could hardly make it. Grapes are worth $18 a ton, and now they're worth, $2,000 a ton. We could barely make enough to make our, and we paid her once a year.
No, we paid her $100 a month.
Oh. And she moved to town, and she was so lonesome when Dad died. She just died of lonesomeness then later on. But then we had to sell
Well, she
the
lived
place.
another 20 years though, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
well, she was
yeah.
pretty good at first,
Yeah.
but then
And she never remarried or anything?
No.
then we eventually had to sell the place, and then she went to work more, and then I got a gap role with Union Oil, and then, but we made a little profit there, and then we bought the home in California Street, and
Mhm.
just kept getting a little better,
Mhm.
That's what it ended up, ended up here.
How old were your parents when they died?
My dad was 75 and my mother was 69.
What did they die from?
Well, my mother had a stroke, and she never came out of the stroke. I didn't know if she understood me or not when I was speaking to her. My dad just had a heart attack, fell out of bed, and he was gone.
In Idaho.
How many years after the stroke did she live?
A year?
6 months.
Oh, 6 months. She never could talk much.
Yeah.
She
I
never
got-
could speak again.
I got her to laughing one day, but that's about it.
Yeah.
She said Reuben, I think that's the only word she said in 6 months. She just, and he died
Well,
lay
you-
there all the time. Never could
You
walk.
said to her, oh, let's play some tic-tac-toe or something.
Yeah.
So then he drew a thing on paper and he said, now you make the X.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the 0, and you have to do the X. So he's drawing here, and he says, he says, oh, what's the matter with you, Mom? You can't even do it or something? And so then she said, Reuben.
And that's the only one she ever said.
That's all she ever said.
Before and after the story. I mean,
So I don't know what she knew.
oh,
Yeah.
that was the best lady in the world.
Yeah. What did she do for? Did she work at all, or did she just?
Well, she worked later. She worked in the cannery, you know, in the summertime. Then she drew unemployment in the winter. That's what you did to all the ladies that worked in big canneries and all that. But before, she never worked. They were wealthy back in Dakota. They had a Ford agency and a gasoline wholesale business and cattle and everything. They were the wealthiest people in the county probably at that time. And they divorced, so that's why it was so hard on everybody. They moved out of it. But that's all right. That happens. She was supposed to get married to her high school sweetheart, and he was in the Navy. They've been gone steady and ready to get married, and she just all of a sudden dumped him and came to California.
Well, if they divorced when after 26 years, were they unhappy when you were
Well,
growing up, or
No,
did they?
he had somebody else for 8 years. And my mother said, I always knew that there was somebody else, but I wanted him to raise his children.
Yeah, and she waited until you were all grown.
The youngest one was my brother Leroy, and he was 16, and that was a terrible age for a kid to. So I don't think he ever even got over that. He went through lots of problems.
Well, maybe she don't want all that this week.
Well, no, I'm curious, because he had something.
He went in the service.
Because I'm curious about the health problems, because those are always
Yeah,
good to know for your
Walter
health
Walter
history.
had
You know?
mental problems later, you know, because of the traumatic thing of the divorce, and he gambled so heavy, and he drank, and you know, and he remarried this gal with a bunch of kids in Colorado, and you know, and Leroy, he got screwed up in Korea. He was laying in the foxholes in the winter, and he got pneumonia and all that bad. They had to take a lung out, and he was in veterans homes all over around here.
He got TB over there, tuberculosis.
He was
Yeah.
all,
It seems like I remember that from
Yeah.
being a little kid.
and then he died. He had a bunch of wives. You know, he was what do you call it?
Paraplegic?
Jealous.
Oh.
Well, paranoid.
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 Oh.
We'd get him into another home, and he'd have another wife, and we'd be in there painting, and he'd think that he was thinking in his head that I had the wife, his new wife in bed over in the
But
other room.
he and Bob were painting in there,
So that's
and he
he had
in there screwing her.
he had an
Yeah.
awful life, awful life.
Terrible,
Mental
terrible.
problem.
And so they're
Lillian is good, another one now. She was good.
Lillian was nice.
Lillian was,
My only sister.
and they're all passed away?
They've all passed away.
She's the only one left.
And tell me what they died from, which one, who died
Lillian
from what?
died of cancer, female organ cancer. She lived 3 years from the time she discovered it. And then Walter, I don't know.
They said he fell somewhere, fell and hit his head, and he was gone. And we never did get along with his wife that well and see her that. So we never even
they were
went to that
divorced.
funeral.
They were divorced by then. So I really don't even know what happened to him. And Leroy just died of the sickness that he
Yeah,
had.
he was always in bad shape, skinny.
And then Uncle Bill, what happened when he was a kid? He had some health problems when he
a
was
lot of
little
problems
too.
when he was born,
Ooh,
Uncle
Bill.
Bill.
this Bill?
Uh-huh.
Oh, when he was a month old, he started vomiting so bad. Every time I nursed him, he vomited.
Come right back up.
And so I called the doctor and I says, I want you to give me a formula, because this child can't take my milk.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, I don't think that's what it is. He says, I have an idea what it is. So I said, oh, I'm sure it's my milk. So he gave me a formula for that night. That kid just vomited constantly with that. So the next day I took Bill in the hospital. It was on a Saturday, I think. They x-rayed him all day. And all of a sudden, they said they have to operate. The opening from the stomach to the intestine is so small, it's just not going through.
So they had to open that and widen it out with another piece in there somewhere.
So they gave him too much streptomycin to save his life that time. That's what made his hearing go.
Yeah, that screwed his ears up.
It's so bad. Because in those days, they just didn't realize that streptomycin would do that. And it just ruined his ears.
And she was so traumatic that she lost part of her hearing too. It was so just a big deal, just losing your kid, strapping him down.
Oh, that was
And how old was he when he was surgery?
month old.
Well,
And he was born with a double hernia down here. We knew that.
Oh, yeah, he had all kinds of problems.
At 4 months old,
He
he...
could hardly breathe. At night, we'd have to have a respirator on top of the bed just to keep him breathing when he was out at the old ranch. One day I was barbecuing out there, and I had cleaning solvent to light the coals, and had the little glass sitting up here, and he swallowed that, and we had to come in 7 miles to the hospital, 100 miles an hour as fast as that car would go up Pelcher, lower Sac into the hospital, and they quick pumped his stomach out, and they wouldn't even let me go in there to watch it, because they said, that's the worst thing you want to see. And he's had
How old
so
was
many,
he?
Well, at that time,
He
he
was little?
wasn't even going to school yet. He was a little guy. And he couldn't hear. He'd lost his hearing. We didn't even know it until he went to grammar school. And the teacher said, there's something wrong with Bill's ears.
No, I told her
He's
to watch.
always up real close, and so we had him tested. Hell, he had a big hearing aid thing. In those days, they had a big thing here and a wire, and ugly, and the kids always teasing him. Then they finally got better and better, these little
Yeah.
things. But now he doesn't wear any at all. His religion's, he thought it's taking care of it, but that's his problem.
You told the teacher that you thought he had problems?
Yeah, kindergarten teacher.
Yeah. 'cause
I said, just ask, check him, see whether he has problems or not. Because we have to give him some hearing aids if that's the problem. Well, she said, he always wanted to get close to right in front of her.
In fact, they wanted to send him to special school for deaf. It was just a matter of barely making it, not going to special school. So Bill's had a lot of problems. So that gets up to Bill. Now what else we got?
Then, did they have any other, when they were the kids were going to school, no other big
Who, your
problems?
mom?
Yeah.
Vicki, Diane?
Well, your mother graduated from Houston School, same as your dad or your grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
No, she was bright.
We moved.
High school.
Well, we moved
A's.
into town when she was in 6th grade. So then her teacher, her best friend was Ann Freitas,
Right.
and so Mrs. Clark took her back and forth because she was teaching out there, Mrs. Clark.
Yeah, she finished that. Who lived in Lodi can finish in Houston School as a
Mhm.
teacher. But
So that
your
was a
mother
re-
was bright. Oh, she was so smart. She didn't have too much homework anyway. Poor Diane, she had to study. And then when your mother took that test for nursing, it just no time she had it.
Yeah.
So Bill's real smart too. Diane's smart, but she has not.
It's
with
just hard.
Math and
Yeah.
kind of like me.
So, then Mom graduated and got married.
Yeah, then they moved to Reno, I think.
Yeah.
You was born there.
I was born in Reno, but Melinda was born in Lodi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Melinda was born in Lodi.
And Mom had a nice wedding.
Oh, yeah, big wedding, big reception at the Legion Hall. We had 500 people. I was driving Cadillac high in the hall.
So what do you remember from her being pregnant with Melinda
Oh, yeah.
and having Melinda? Where were you when Melinda was born? You were.
We were in Lodi. We were at the hospital when she had the baby.
Uh-huh.
Where did they live then? in Lodi? Ron and Stockton.
No, I think it was in Lodi.
Then they moved to, Reno.
After
Sacramento.
Melinda was born.
Oh, it's Stockton.
And her pregnancy was okay? She had easy pregnancies too, pretty much? Do you remember anything with,
Not specifically, but
Yeah.
I
Kind of a
remember.
normal, hard time.
yeah, your basic.
Yeah.
Basic.
And so then they moved to Reno and then I was born. And then you came up to Reno
Mhm.
Yeah. we
before
just-
I was born?
I went up there, it was on my bowling night, and I came home, and Dad said, Vicky's having pain. So man, I just took off right then and there. I said, well, she wants me there with her. And I just went right up there
By
to
yourself,
to
yeah.
be with her.
Because I was
Your
working.
pain stopped. So the next day I started cleaning around her house and stuff, and you better start having pains or I'm gonna go home. And so she said, I don't know, nothing's happening. It just kind of just stopped, you know. And all of a sudden her pain started and she went in the hospital. And let's see, we take you to next door neighbor or something.
Melinda.
Oh,
Well,
Melinda, yeah. And I just went over to the hospital and stuck around there till morning, till you were born.
And then still, they didn't let the dad in the room.
No, I know.
No, that
And-
was just recent.
And how many days, she still spent, a day or two, right, in the hospital?
Oh, I think she spent 3 days.
Yeah.
Before. Your dad was working at that big supermarket, that
Uh-huh,
into Rayleigh's.
uh-huh.
Always
And
had
then
a
they
good
moved to
job.
Tahoe. They didn't live in Reno very long, right? I don't
Did they
think.
go from Reno to Tahoe? Or was it back here at the Sacramento and then back? I think
No,
They went back to
I think they went
Oh,
from
yeah,
Reno to Tahoe.
They lived in Sacramento at some point.
Yeah,
Some of our
they ended up in
They
Tahoe.
they left here and went to Sacramento
Yeah,
first.
right, and then you guys
And then
ended up in
from
Sacramento.
Sacramento, they moved to Reno.
Ended up in Tahoe, that's when you guys were split.
Mhm.
But no problems with, any real problem except Bill with this.
Yeah.
I don't know what that came from, something that she
Yeah.
must have ate or she smoked a little bit at that time, but I don't think that would have any. It's drinking and smoking this especially you don't wanna do when you're
Yeah.
pregnant. They say nowadays, but we
Now they
didn't.
know, yeah.
We would have a glass, but we didn't have nothing like that in those days. God, New Year's Eve party, oh, I'm sure she drank when she was pregnant,
Yeah.
but
But you had a lot of health problems, didn't you, when you were younger?
Oh, I don't know.
No? I mean, when you were an adult, when you
Yeah.
had, after you had kids, no?
Oh, she's had 7 operations, I think.
Oh, I've had a lot of surgeries.
Do you remember what for? Just this or that?
The first was appendicitis before you
Oh,
were
yeah,
married
that's
to me.
when it came out, about before I was married. I was working at the Bank of America, and pretty soon I'm going up to this machine where I picked out some checks, and I slumped over.
Well, that's a regular appendicitis.
Yeah.
So then that was
That's normal.
appendicitis.
In those days, everybody got appendicitis. I never did have mine.
And then after that,
You had kidney stones removed, you had hial hernia.
no, not kidney stones,
Oh, gallstones.
gallstones.
I'm trying to help her out because maybe she's not, can't remember. But
Yeah, I mean, those
lot
were a
of
long time,
operations.
yeah, and they weren't anything.
That was my last one, gallbladder.
So you may end up also someday.
Yeah,
They
Hysterectomy.
were big. Yeah, and a hysterectomy and all. She would have turned into cancer too down below, so you have to watch that. That's kind of hereditary with sister. Of course, my mother had high blood pressure all her life, and Vicky has high blood pressure, and I have high blood pressure.
I have high blood pressure.
You gotta make sure you check your blood pressure, especially when you get pregnant.
yeah,
'cause,
yeah, Melinda had problems.
Sure.
Didn't she have high blood
Yeah, so
pressure?
that runs in the family, and her mother died of stroke from high blood pressure, and my mother high blood. I don't know, my dad never went to a doctor, he probably had it too, he's just
Yeah.
hated doctor, he wouldn't go until he died, and he never even got out of the hospital. But as far as health, if you're wondering, watching you and your kids being born, there's no big deal, but
Yeah,
as far as diabetes, I don't know anything biggie.
she's the only one.
Must've just,
I think that
Well,
was
that
kind of
runs in our
stress.
family too.
It does?
It
Well,
runs on
hers.
the Strobel side.
her side, yeah, there, well, there's one cousin.
It's
of
my
yours.
mother's My mother's, my mother's mother was diabetic just before she died. They found that
Well,
out.
was later in life.
However, since then, let's see, Vicky's generation, several of my cousins had children who were diabetic.
Her cousin had died of diabetes. Was that a
That was on the other side, on the wolf side.
well,
He was a little guy though.
it's part of
He
your-
had it from child
part
on,
of your blood.
juvenile diabetes. So.
What do you remember about Anthony being born? What happened? When did they call you?
That was neat.
Oh God, Mike called me right away in the morning, and he says, Diane just went to the hospital. I says, what for? He says, well, for Melinda. He says, Jeff called and said that Melinda's gonna go in the hospital. So she's already taken off, he said. I said, well, I'm gonna get up and go too. And so he said, well, you'd better. And I got there, he was there too.
And I came up later.
And
This
so,
was really early?
oh, it was early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning.
10 hours before I was even born, you guys were sitting around there all day and half the night. Then I finally came, they said, oh, the pains are getting a little closer, so I got up there. Melinda said, where's Grandpa, where's Grandpa? And I was the only one that wasn't there. I didn't think it was a big deal. So, boy, when I walked in, she kissed me, Grandpa, Grandpa, it hurts so bad. I keep pushing, and pretty soon. Then we waited another 3 or 4 hours sitting around there going nuts. You know. Pretty soon, here's the baby, and we held it right away. It was still dripping blood.
Oh, yeah? They hadn't even washed it yet?
Well, not all the way, you
Yeah.
know, it was coming out of there and putting into this thing, and we were right there and took a picture of the little guy,
Oh,
that
my
one picture. But he was a nice little guy. Linda was so happy. Had too many people, oh God, man.
Yeah, that's what she says. Everybody was in
And
there.
everybody was in there, and Melinda was embarrassed, you know. She had her half naked and pushing, and everybody, you know, I wouldn't have not allowed that.
I wouldn't
That
have.
doctor was really lenient. He doesn't
Yeah.
care what the hell. You guys all want to watch and kept pulling out of you, I guess. But I couldn't believe it. That's the way they do it.
But then when the baby actually came out, who was in there? Just Jeff?
Yeah.
Just Jeff and.
The very end.
And Marcia.
At the very end, when the hair started.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
got out of
Yeah.
there. But we didn't know how much longer, but that was neat. She stayed off. Of course, then she was working for Lucky's at the time. Stayed home with the babies for a while.
No, she's not the, Melinda? No, they already had the restaurant.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, that was just last
Oh,
year.
that's right. They were
Yeah.
always had this. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. I'm sorry.
That was just last year.
Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of fun with your little guy or girl, whoever it is. Just hoping it's healthy, that's all you gotta do.
That's all.
What it is, it is. You gotta cope with it.
Is your kindergarten teacher still alive?
She
No.
died 2 years ago. She was just about 90.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Was she the one that got?
I was 68, 66, 67, 68. Here's my little Reuben. I was her favorite all the way because I was a little scrawny fart. Wiry but scrawny, you know, and mama baby and all that shit. Reuben was my favorite student. We'd go to a restaurant. Here she'd be with all her old friends.
Yeah, I remember.
And I'd
meeting
go
her.
over and hug her and kiss her, and
Yeah.
oh, my favorite Reuben.
Was she the one that got married during the school year and you thought you had
Yeah,
a sandwich?
changed names. Miss Meyer to Mrs. Steely, and I was all upset. I don't want no other teacher. I want my Miss Myers and Hero. And they told me, oh, it's the same teacher. She just got married.
I was thinking of
She
that.
pushed me
before.
through. All the teachers liked me so much. They pushed me through. I didn't even learn a damn thing. I think they'd even pass me on a test if I flunked. And that's not good either. You gotta earn your way.
Yeah.
You know, about the 4th grade, they held everybody back except me, and I should have been held back too. The teachers were so bad. I was. Then in high school, I played sports, and hell, no matter if you played sports, they didn't care. They passed, you know, you're the grid, so you could play for dear old Lodi High, you know. So I didn't learn nothing there either. In the Army, I didn't go to school, but I was always trying to be a businessman, be on my own. I hated working for somebody, so that's
Yeah.
kind of the way it was.
That's good.
But,
And you wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah, I was a teacher. I was a teacher for 1 year after I graduated. Back there where they weren't able to get teachers.
the wartime.
Yeah, because of the war.
You taught all grades in one little room
Yeah.
with a
one
potbelly
little-
stove. You told me.
But that was long after the days of a one-room schoolhouse. That was,
It was a one-room schoolhouse.
but when you were going to school, it wasn't a one-room schoolhouse.
They were up here in the foothills.
Oh, yeah?
Clemens had them, different little grammar schools at one-room school. Oh, yeah, I can remember.
But when you
When we
didn't
were first
go to
married, I
one.
can remember little one-room schoolhouses up here in
Uh-huh.
the foothills and Clemens and stuff.
But they don't anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm back in the Ozarks, I guess they still have one.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's a good thing you're gonna be a teacher, that's good.
Yeah, because it was my first year teaching that I met your kindergarten teacher, and I thought that was so fun
That's right, you met her too that year.
to meet my grandpa's kindergarten teacher. Well, I'll stop it for a little bit, and then if we think of more, turn it back on.
Mother up here,
Okay.
and the rest are all her siblings.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you want to know them separately or not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
If you know him.
That was Emil. This is Carrie, the oldest one. This is Aunt Emma Remain. That was Aunt Ida Larson. That was Uncle Fred. One of these is Clara.
So
I
how
don't know.
how many kids is that?
Oh, there's 12 in her family.
Wow.
10 of them lived. 2 of them died at childbirth.
Okay.
This was Aunt Olga. No, this one's the only one living, Albina.
Okay.
Okay, now these are my grandparents on my dad's side. Grandma and Grandpa Wolf. That was my dad. And Aunt Katie. Uncle Chris. Aunt Lizzie. And Uncle John.
Okay.
And this is another picture of that family. 5 children.
Who are they?
Well, this is my dad, Katie and Lizzie and Chris and John.
Okay.
And this was a store in Fredonia. This is my sister behind the counter, Lillian.
Oh, yeah. And where, North Dakota?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In Fredonia. And these are my parents when they got married.
Okay.
Dad and Mom.
And above that's Grandpa?
Yeah.
That was his dad. Now you can
Oh,
start
okay.
in telling you about.
Okay. This is Louis Baumbach, my dad, when he was, probably before he was married even, probably just got out of the service. He was over in Europe in World War I.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when they got married. And let me get on the other side. Okay.
She
No,
showed
those
me
are
all
all
those.
okay.
Okay, this is the family picture. This is my grandpa, Conrad Baumbach, and this was Sophie Baumbach. She got killed in a train wreck in Lodi, 1922. She's big, heavy-set lady. Then he remarried again later. You know, I didn't even know this person. That's 22. And then this is my dad, Louis, and that's Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred. Aunt Magdalena, called her Mac, Big Mac. It's like Grandma, Big Mac. And that's Aunt Ruby. She had a restaurant in Lodi for years. That's a funny deal. She married her first marriage last name was Oswald, and her second marriage was Kennedy, and her name was Ruby.
Oh.
So it's Ruby, Oswald, Kennedy. It all connects with that,
That is
killing.
amazing.
You know?
That is
Well, I
amazing.
always say that. And then Uncle John, he's the oldest. The little guy who never was married, old bachelor, had horses, poor as a church mouse, was happy as hell. And that's Aunt Margaret. She lived in San Francisco. And this is Uncle Philip and Uncle Otto and Uncle Ben or whatever. I'm not sure there. And this, who is this? This is another aunt. Ugh, there's one more. I
Yeah.
forget that one. Anyway, this is an old car they had when he come out of the service. And that's when he was in World War I. And this is Uncle Dave and Dad and a couple of cousins, Bechtels and stuff. They're just kind of, you know,
Yeah.
like on a Saturday afternoon. And this is our family picture, but I think this is before Ollie went to the Marines in 1940 or 41. This is Malvin, probably in high school. Maybe I'm just a freshman or something, or 8th grade. Dad and Mom, Louis and Elizabeth Baumbach, and Paul, the youngest brother, Paul.
Do you know what your dad did in the war?
Huh?
What?
He was in the Signal Corps in the war. He strung telephone lines and stuff. He said he had a pistol, but it got all rusted and never had to use it because he was behind the lines.
Oh,
In fact, I never shot any guns over there either.
Yeah.
The war was over, but he was there during the war, so.
okay. All right.
And what do we have? Anything over here? How many that is?
You don't know? 96, and Grandma and Grandpa have been living here since 1990. Yeah, see the orchard in the front. Very good, and then they have some parking spots here. What? Oh, well, that's all right.
Huh?
That's okay. There's a Scooter dog. Hi, Scooter. Hi there, Scooter. And the swimming pool.
Yeah, I just picked the oranges. It's good, nice to take a picture of the oranges. I don't know, it froze so hard last night.
There's a Scooter dog. Hi there. What you doing, Scooter?
You got any pictures of your car?
I guess not.
Probably don't, huh?
Yeah, not on video.
Well, this is our pump here, our main water source. We had to put that in new when we came out here in
90.
91. They used the water from that house over there because it was all one ranch. They just pumped it over here. That first year we moved, it was all froze. Everything froze. The pool had that much ice on it, and that poor pump was going off and on, off and on. We had a little water, had to let the water run a little bit so it wouldn't all freeze up.
Well, it all froze over anyway.
So then we put our new pump in, and so I have my own water now. And that's my old work truck. That used to be my regular pickup until I wrecked it all the front end, and they wanted more to fix it than it's worth, so the insurance company just give it to me. So I'll use it for fuel. Then the old Kubota tractor, 1978 model, got about 1,000 hours on it, runs good, uses a little oil.
I'm going to go in the house.
And we're going to plant a garden here this year because Bill and Alicia, you know, if I can plant a bunch of tomatoes and stuff, plus they'll have to try to buy nice fresh. Then the old cherry orchard.
How big is it? How much is it?
I have 5 acres, and the lady has 15. It's just a 20-acre orchard when
And
we
then
bought
in
it.
front is cherries too?
Huh? It's all, it goes way
In the
back.
front yard?
Yeah, it goes way back. So 20 acres, quite a few acres. And the cherry right now is dormant, and this is the buds here. These buds right here will flower. All the buds will flower, and that's where you'll have your cherries made. These clusters of buds, there's like 5 buds. Then here I have an old apricot tree, and an old peach tree, and an apple, and then a big plum. So when we bought the ranch, it had all these oddball little, like a family orchard thing. And the rest are cherries. And I'll probably put the garden in here, have some corn, some onions, and tomatoes, and whatever. Get a rototiller and have old Bill work that rototiller.
Yeah.
That's what's hard. The neighbor used to have a tractor rototiller, which was neat. A few artichoke plants that keep coming up. But other than
I don't
that,
think you said your birthday on the...
Huh?
I don't think you said your birthday last night.
I didn't.
Uh-uh.
March the 12th, 1927.
1927. And then you guys got married what year?
47, I think it was,
Okay.
or 48. got out of the service in 19. Well, I was in Berlin all of 1946. So I got out. I graduated in June of 45. Yeah, I was deferred, and then Friday night we had our graduation. By Monday morning I was up in Camp Deal, and I was in the Army, boy. It wasn't
And that was
long.
45? 40?
Yeah, 45.
And then
And
you were
then
there
I went
for...
to Texas for basic training, you know, to go over to Japan because they hadn't surrendered yet. And by the time I got out of Shepherd Field, Texas, the war was over. The war was over, so no more heavy training. So they sent me right to Indiana. All the guys were coming home, you know, to help to the paperwork and mustering out, and they'll give them their medals and whatever. So and then I wasn't happy with that, so I wanted to go see some countries. So then I re-enlisted. I was drafted, and I re-enlisted for 3 years. And then I got to go where I wanted to, so I went to Germany.
And Switzerland?
Yeah, I went to vacation in Switzerland, France, and all
Wow.
over.
How fun.
Yeah, it was a good. Got homesick in basic training a lot, but then you know when you get used to it, you don't miss your folks that much. Yeah.
And where were your parents born?
Yeah, one. Well, we didn't get that either.
No.
Dad was born in the near the state capital of South Dakota. I think it's Pierre, isn't it? Pierre, and Mom was born, I think, at Hutchinson, Kansas.
And their parents?
Their parents were both born in Russia.
Okay.
And came over, you know, end of the century. They were the first. So most all the relations live around here, except on the Baumbach side. All the young side live around here and remarried, and they all have, you know, big families.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I've always liked to have a ran. You know, I was in the gas business for all the time. When I was young, first got married, was pumping gas at service stations, and then working for other guys, driving gas truck, and then finally got my own deal.
Yeah.
Hopefully I saved enough to last me till I die, but that's always a concern. If you run out of money,
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I
you
can't
didn't
really
say...
have a job anymore because, you know, I got this arthritis and stuff.
How much were you making when you were first?
First pumping gas, oh, I think it was 175, something like that. And then the Union Oil driver was delivering oil. It was a big truck stop. They carried all brands of oil. Like, you know, and you could get any kind of oil you wanted. They had a barrel of each. So this guy had come over. He got to like me. I was young, you know, pumping gas. And how would you like to drive gas truck? He says, you got a lot of relation. You know a lot of people. Where are you born, raised? I said, fine. I said, never driven gas truck or anything. You know, it's kind of dangerous, isn't it? No, he said, I'll tell you what, Reuben, I'll give you. What are you making? 175. I'll give you 50. I think it was a $50 raise. I'll give you $2.25, and I'll give you a quarter-cent a gallon for every new customer you can get. So I think the first month, I think I made came home with $2.75, and I was only making 100 cents. So that's why I said, hey, this is fun. You know,
And how much was your rent?
35. And you know.
And you started saving right away?
Well, no, we couldn't save. Then finally, I worked for Union Oil for like 10, 15 years. Then he sold his business to another guy. See, he was a jobber that had his own drivers and everything. It wasn't. We just had Union Oil products. And this younger guy came. Well, he laid me off because he didn't need me. He drove a gas truck, and the other old guy drove a gas truck, and he had a girl doing the book work. So, boy, I had a hard time finding a job after all those years. So I worked in roofing companies and then construction and all kinds of
When was this?
oddballs.
About what year?
Yeah. Let's see, what were we talking for you? Middle of 50s, like 50. Then we moved out to the old ranch when everybody was little.
And when did you get your own gas truck?
Well, that was like in 1980, probably. Oh, no, maybe
70s?
75.
Yeah.
And I'd done that 80, probably 89 when we give all completely up.
And Grandma was working at the bank when you met, but then when she had babies, she stayed home, right?
Yeah. And then her first little job when the babysitter, she took him to a babysitter. She worked for the fruit companies as a bookkeeper, you know, done the paperwork and counted the box, you know, all that. She did that off and on for a couple of companies. Then she Then after Bill, then Bill was little, then she went to work for the bank, back to the bank again.
After they're all
as
in
a
school.
teller till the end. And she probably should have stayed there because she could had a retirement, you know. And I don't know. Then I'd bought the service station in the meantime, and she did all the bookwork plus all the bookwork for the truck. So I kept her busy, but I could have hired somebody, and she could have stayed at the bank, you know, and had a retirement. But you know, that's the thing. You got to have a retirement when you get old.
Yeah.
And I don't have it because I was always in business for myself. But
But you guys saved
I put
that?
away some money. I hope it's enough.
Yeah.
But this orchard here is probably a third of my income right now that I live on, and it all depends on the weather. If the weather's good, you know, then you make pretty good. But if the weather's bad and cherries all crack, they barely make expenses. So that's what's happened the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you kind of worry about those things. But
And before you had grapes.
well, at the other place, our original place over here, which we sold to a subdivider, we had grapes back there. Then I'd pull them grapes out, and oh, you mean the old ranch when I took over my mother's place? Yeah, that was all in grapes. We sold that and bought this ranch over here, and it had grapes, and then it was getting old, so I pulled them all out and re-leveled it and put in the cherries. So we had, you know.
Right.
Do you remember we
Oh,
had
right.
the cherries
Yeah.
back in there? And then, of course, the subdivider come along. The houses were coming out, and he offered me a ridiculous,
Offer you
crazy
can't
high
refuse,
price. But in the long run, you know, it's maybe not that good because then you got to pay capital gains and all that stuff. And we bought this. This is where we plan to retire. I tried to sell it here not too long ago, but there's nothing.
Wouldn't sell.
You know, big. There's no one quite a bit for it, but the people aren't buying that kind of stuff right now. Yeah, the house is pretty good. It had a few, when there's, you know, when you get a heavy year like this, when it rains real hard, you get a few leaks because it's not slanted a lot, you know, like your mom's house in Morro Bay, how it would leak a little.
Yeah. So we had the big floods this year, but and then the last floods like this were 55. Did you say?
No. 85 was the last one we had. But in the 50s, like 51 and then 55 and 58, we have continually lot of rain.
And that was before
and that's
the dam.
before the last dam, Comanche Dam. There's Party in Comanche. Then they built the Comanche Dam. Then of course that took care of the Macombie River. They could regulate it. But of course this year they had a lot more water out because they're kind of scared. But normally it's fine. But this will never flood you. This is kind of high as you go out this area here. That's the deal. That's the neighbor lady there. She used to live in this house. Her husband died, and it was